Good evening, Mananda. We welcome you all to the International Webinar Series on Holistic Health, Well-being, Sustainable Development 2022, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030 as part of awareness and campaigns. In collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art Sciences and Well-being. Before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue to today's sessions. Today, though there are no international commemorations as such, but there are few national commemorations, especially in context to Bhutan and US and Canada and few other countries. So let's first look at the interesting day. We'll start with commemoration of Wright Brothers Day. Hope we all remember, by the word Wright Brothers. I think we all can recollect. I think even before that, because though it's not so much contextual, because I think we all have heard the word Pushpak Viman or Vimanam, because we were hearing this since ages, since we were, even before we were born, in the womb also, because lot of every year we have this Ramayana. We were hearing to this Ramayana and various other scriptures and ancient scriptures where the mention of Pushpaka Vimana and various Vimanas were mentioned. So in the Western context of the recent origin, Wright brothers were credited for these flights or planes for that matter. But our Indian context or our Sanatana Dharma has long history of almost our Vedic scriptures have given account and detailed description of various such innovations, discoveries, inventions in the past. If we look at the present criticisms or the present inventions or discoveries, all were earlier. Even now also, the modern science is it's an infancy period. It's still a premature, or we can still call as pseudoscience, not exactly science also, because it has not evolved. There are many concepts, phenomena which are beyond the scope of science. Science is still not able to give a proper explanation, a reasonable rational thought, or rational you know idea about these concepts. So this gives us various assumptions for that matter, that science has not yet evolved in its fullest form or shape, or its fullest science as such. So we have seen various things which were criticized, or by so-called scientists or so-called educated, or the modern education has been all possible. Earlier we were having these you know darpanams, they used to call Maya Darpanam. Nowadays we all are doing video conferencing, Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx, whatnot. All were possible earlier, when we didn't have this kind of technology. People criticized that these all were false, and these were just false stories that were circulated. But now, as the technology has been evolving, as people started utilizing and discovery, there is no invention as such unless and until these disasters are inventions. Except that most of them are just discoveries. Vedas, as mentioned, or Vedic scriptures, our Ramayana, Mahabharata has given lot of accounts, in fact, for all these things, where we had this Maya Darpanam, where people used to see and talk to other persons, converse with other person. That is possible today because of this teleconferencing and video conferencing, and many such which were criticized earlier. Even now, we should not forget that all are inspired by our ancient Vedic scriptures. Today we are just trying to prove that. In fact, we are taking a different name, as we are using a different mobile or tab or laptop, whatever we call. Earlier, today's laptops are inspired by our Maya Darpanam, where that box, within that box, if you have seen this Ramayana and various other, films that were produced, or teleserials that were produced, I think everyone can recollect this laptop resembling box, where it was opened, and they were able to see and talk to people, their relatives, and the counterparts. So everything was possible because Vedas or Vedic scriptures are only the truth, universal truth in this entire universe. Beyond that, there is nothing, no truth exists beyond that. And every religion, for that matter, every belief system, because that is the oldest system that is ever available to the mankind, Sanatana Dharma, because that was a, a society or a state or a nation, in fact, beyond the concept of state, society, or nation, which existed since the conception of the universe, or even before the conception of universe. So all the, later on belief systems or religions, which has all similarities, you can see all similarities are derived or taken from or inspired from this Sanatana Dharma. So we can see every invention or discovery nowadays were mentioned, even alchemy, turning other metals into alloys into gold or whatever, different kind of alchemy or chemistry or biology or science, physical science today. Even we have visited with this Pushpaka Vimana. Now we are having these spacecrafts. We are trying to reach sun, moon, whatnot. We have recently, made an attempt, and people have gone to moon and they are trying to reach sun. So all these have been long back done, and we have got enough scriptures, records in Vedas also. The Rig Veda, which is the oldest, scripture available to the mankind ever. It have detailed accounts that by using these vimanas, we have traveled across to various places, to various planets also. We have gone to moon, we have gone to sun also. In fact, sun, we have, regularly traveled to sun back and forth, because there is mention of Surya Narayana and sun as a, as a god and as a celestial being, and where there was a huge interactions. There were detailed accounts. So when we try to understand, the problem here is the lack of maturity of human being. Though he thinks, he is very much highly intellectual, but at the same time we have been seeing daily through various conversations. Now today, even today also, he did not evolve into a human being or higher intellect, because when we see various activities taken up by these human beings, we still doubt whether they are really, evolved themselves into a super or highly intellectual beings. So they are just one human beings, or in fact, we are just one of the 8.4 billion or 8 billion species. We should not forget that we are just one among the 8 billion species. So there are many species like us. We should never forget the fact that we are sharing the resources, we are sharing the space, and we have evolved after many species on this planet. And after us also many species evolved. So we were never the first, we were never the last. So we are part of the nature. But what we are doing, we are creating a havoc, we are creating a devastation of the existing environment. We are cause for, extinction of various species and endanger of various species, and many species got extinct. And what we are doing today, we have put entire planet onto the threat of extinction, including ourselves. Today, we have recently seen COVID-19, which is a man-made disaster, man-made creation, and recent reports also are talking about it's a, uh, uh, evidences or certain things about it was made in lab, and definitely there is no doubt that such biological weapons, or what we call chemical weapons, have been long there in the history of mankind, where these notorious criminals, especially I would like to call, because the kind of activities taken up by the human beings, that is a very less word, very humble word, I would say, rather than we need to find you know, coin a different word for these human beings, where, they are committing a lot of atrocities or crimes towards a fellow species and fellow beings. We need to talk, we need to be blunt, we need to be very open, because the kind of disasters or the kind of crimes that are being committed by us to the fellow beings is soon we are going to pay. Now only we are paying for that, and soon we are going to pay much more for that. So coming to this Wright Brothers Day today, Wright Brothers. So Wright Brothers in United States, the day commemorates the first successful flights in a mechanically propelled aeroplane that was heavier than air. The planes were made by the Orville and Wilbur Wright on the Wright Brothers in 1903 near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. A proclamation is made annually inviting Americans to celebrate the day with various ceremonies and activities. So this was, initially in US, because in Indian context, long back before even America was discovered or even Americans existed, we had these Pushpaka Vimanas, we had these flights. So for us, it's a very olden concept as such. So in the Western context, it is credited to these Wright brothers. And it is an important event in the US history and advancement of aviation. And, what would be the transport be like without flights? Of course, we had earlier ships also, but it could have taken long time, and this much of traveling might not could happen, and a lot of things, we were transporting goods and various services, so it couldn't have been much better. But still, we were using those sea lines or ocean lines for various transport of human beings or animals or for that matter goods or services. So man has taken huge leaps in aviation over the past century, and Orville and Wilbur Wright had a huge part in this development, according to the West. And these Wright brothers were always fascinated and flying from a young age. So the brothers, two of seven children, born to Milton Wright and Susan Catherine Querner. The family moved 12 times because of Milton Wright's position as a bishop in the Church of United Brethren in the Christ before permanently moving to Dayton in 1884. So the young Wright brothers' father brought home a toy helicopter for them in 1878. The toy device was based on an invention by French aeronautical pioneer Alphonse Pinot. So the helicopter was there even before these Wright brothers has discovered flight. And Wilbur and Orville played with it until it broke and then built their own. So they credited the toy as their origin of interest in flying. So we can see, there are a lot of innovations, discoveries, which are inspired by, Vedic scriptures. So we had concepts which were derived today because they are the oldest scriptures in the universe. So we have derived, inspired by various concepts. That's why it is very much important. Today, we say we are the most ignorant or we are most, backward in the terms of knowledge because we are not reading those scriptures, at least in its original form, but at least in the translated form. So much of knowledge is lost. And now we are reading a lot of this, published trash, what we call, which haven't any empirical evidence over. These are just small samples based on which they have a lot of limitations where which are studying, and we are studying the same things which are making us more vulnerable. In fact, there is nothing wrong, go with the flow, but at the same time, we should never forget our roots, the ancient knowledge that is still lying in the Vedic scriptures. We have to try to, grasp that knowledge and try to check with the present findings, research findings, how far it is true and how far it is still applicable. Today, science is also have to be open. Tomorrow, today they can say something and tomorrow the exact opposite can happen. It happened many times also. That is the first principle or first assumption or first whatever we call is an openness, open-minded, an open thought through which the science works or science should work. Anything can be proved, anything can be disproved for that matter. So 1896 saw three notable aeronautical events which were embedded in the minds of the Wright brothers and marked the beginning of their serious interest in flight research. They favored the strategy of practical gliding in order to master the art of control before trying out a modern driven flight. So this was inspired by German glider Otto Lilienthal, and despite Lilienthal plunging into his death in August 1986, the Wright brothers noted that his gliding was a correct way to go about learning to fly a motor-powered aircraft. So even before that also, they had these gliders, helicopters, and various other things. So in fact, they are not the ones who invented these flights, though they have been created. Even before that, flights existed, but they were not aware and they were not, known how to operate or how to build. So the brothers' experimentation with flying was quite simple yet impressive. They observed birds and how the animals changed the angle of their wings to make their bodies roll left or right. And Wilbur concluded that this would also be the greatest way for flying a machine to turn just like a bird or a person riding a bicycle. So after several weeks of delays prompted by broken propeller shafts during the engine test, the Wright brothers finally took to the air on December 17, 1903. The historic moment saw Orville and Wilbur Wright making two flights each from level grounds into a glacial headwind blowing at 27 miles per hour. So the first flight by Orville at 10:35 a.m. flew 120 feet in 12 seconds at a speed of 6.8 miles per hour. This was recorded in famous photograph. The next flights traveled roughly 175 and 200 feet by both Wilbur and Orville respectively at an altitude of 10 feet above the ground. So the two aviation pioneers are now regarded as the brothers who invented, built, and flew the world's first successful motor-operated airplane. So we cannot, credit the flights uh, or the invention of flight as such to these brothers. We can only credit that they were the first ones who invented motor-operated airplane. So even before that, airplanes were operated, flights were there, but operated with a different technology. But with these people, a motor operated airplane was invented. In fact, it was discovered. So the states of Ohio and North Carolina both took the credit for the Wright brothers and their world changing inventions because these brothers developed and built their design in Dayton, Ohio, and their first powered flight took place in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. And this has created a friendly rivalry between these two states. And finally, in 1911, Orville Wright returns to glider flights to conduct safety and stabilization tests in Outer Banks, where he soars for 9 minutes and 45 seconds, setting the record, which was held for almost 10 years for the longest time spent on gliding in 1911. So, although they were from humble beginnings, the Wright brothers' extraordinary success led to contracts in both Europe and the United States, and they soon became wealthy business owners. So, they began building a grand family home in Dayton, where they had spent much of their childhood. And Taylor, a mechanic who worked in Dayton, Ohio bicycle shop owned by Orville and Wilbur Wright, is credited with building the lightweight engine that powered the craft that took a flight at Kitty Hawk on December 17, 1903. So it was a Taylor, his name, a mechanic, who in fact built the lightweight engine. Before, without that engine, that flight could have never seen the day of the light. So it was because the core of the flight is its engine. And it was a Taylor, a mechanic named Taylor, who has built the lightweight engine that have powered the craft for this Wilbur and Orville. And that was the first craft that took flight at Kitty Hawk on December 17, 1902. And in 1896, newspapers were filled with accounts of flying machines. And Wilbur and Orville noticed that all these primitive aircraft lacked suitable controls. And they began to wonder how a pilot might balance an aircraft in the air just as a cyclist balances his bicycle on the road. So that's the curiosity, the thought that has driven them crazy, and they started working on it. So coming to learning about aviation history, so this is the best occasion to learn about aviation history, and it is full of exciting accomplishments, adventures, and heroism. There are several aviation museums across the US and the world that you can go and see, or even do a virtual tour of online. Nowadays, a virtual tour of online museums are also available in certain museums. It is a great opportunity. They have also incorporated AI and VR, virtual reality experience also. Even some of them have also incorporated augmented reality, where you can feel around from a distance. And there's also a Dayton Aviation Heritage National Historical Park, which displays the accomplishments of the Wright brothers and other aviation pioneers, and their abilities to take a dream and turn it into a reality. So make sure you go and check out the history of the aviation, no matter where you are in the world. And if you are interested and if you would like to explore there, go plane spotting. There's something kind of fascinating and nostalgic about watching planes in the sky. If you live near an airport, climb onto your roof or lie down in the backyard and watch the planes go by. You can even go to an airport and watch planes take off while sitting in a departure lounge and sipping on coffee or reading a book, although Wright brothers were not the first to build and fly experimental aircraft, they are recognized as the first to invent aircraft controls that made fixed wing flight possible. Make sure to ponder over their achievements as you watch the modern planes go by. So again, we have seen the fact that they are not the first ones to build or to fly. And the Wright brothers noted how birds fly in the sky and how a bicycle is ridden to give them ideas. So they needed to fly a motor powered aircraft. And this was a pretty big deal and cutting edge technology during the early 1900s. So these days we have drones and modern devices that help us feel what it's like actually to fly. No? While the Wrights were the pioneers in the manned flight, learning how to fly a drone can also be a perfect way to get into cutting edge of aviation while taking killer photography or videos from above. Nowadays, drone has become a common, and we see even for a small birthday shoots or wedding, pre-wedding, post-wedding, or for any occasion nowadays, even drone shoots are part of this photography. And the busiest commercial airport in the world is the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta, with more than 110 million passengers a year. And it is the world's busiest airport nowadays. And not everyone gets to fly. Though the aviation sector is growing rapidly, less than 20% of the world population has ever flown on an airplane. So still, it is out of reach of 80% of population. So there is a huge gap. Still, many factors are there. And those 20% are a bit more fortunate to travel or have a flight. And incredibly, Boeing 747 is the largest huge flight. It's made up of 6 million parts, and one of them is its engine, which weighs almost 9,500 pounds and cost about $8 million. So that is the known huge flight. And though nowadays we have different, much more bigger capacity flights. So the oldest airline, when coming to commercial airlines, we have KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, in the world's the oldest airline, established in 1919, shortly followed by Qantas in 1920. And at any given hour, there are 61,000 people airborne over the USA. They are flying over America. And there is a huge traffic in the sky. At any point of time or at any given hour, you can see 61,000 people are there over US flying. So we love planes. Imagine a world without planes. Well, thanks to all those people who really put, and especially Wright brothers in US, for and all other aviation pioneers. And as already mentioned, there are a lot of debates as to whether or not they were actually first. As we know, definitely they were not the first ones, regardless of those claims. So we are not getting into who is the first in that race or something like that, but they have done significant contribution, and with all due respects to them, Wright Flyer was the first patented aircraft. So it was the first patented aircraft. So Wright Brothers Day is one of the day remembered and cherished, because without them, we might not have been checking in our flight to our next holiday destination. So the Wright brothers identified and solved the basic problems of heavier than aircraft through experimentation and innovations. And how do wings stay afloat and enough surface area and the proper curve to provide lift? And what are the means needed to control the direction of the movement of an aircraft? The Wright brothers solved this, which was a huge step forward for the humans. And if the Wright brothers were alive today, they might warn us certain ways of learning in the 21st century prevent us from cultivating engineers of the extraordinary type that they were. Did you know that neither Wilbur nor Willie Wright majored in a STEM discipline? You know the full form of STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, maths. So they never studied any of these, specializations or subjects as such or disciplines. Neither brother went to college, neither had any formal technical training. That's why we say, what kind of education nowadays it is being imparted. Yet they successfully solved an engineering problem that continues to captivate human imagination today. In fact, Orville Wright said during an interview that they had no special advantages growing up, and they were always much encouraged to pursue intellectual curiosity in their family. So often, education is not necessity or requirement for any innovation or discovery. Everything, if you get inspired by nature, if you get inspired by your culture and tradition, gives you everything. So don't wait you know, for development. If you think that uh, you will develop only by studying something or by pursuing something, then that is the greatest myth on the planet. So we have other similar commemorations like National Paper Airplane Day on May 26th. And we have August 21st, Discovery Day, and many more commemorations. This is just briefly about, the Wright brothers and their contribution. But these flights and all were long back in the history. The ancient script, the oldest scripture, Rig Veda, has mentioned, has given a lot of accounts on these scriptures. I will not take much time, but I would love to give some references from Rig Veda, Agastya Samhita, and Arthashastra, and Kalidasa Vikrama Vasya, where it is Rig Veda is the oldest document or scripture of the human race, which includes references to various modes of transportation, and few of them, Jalayan, a vehicle designated to operate in air and water, Rig Veda 6.58.3, and Kara, a vehicle that operates on the ground and in water, Rig Veda 9.14.1, and Tritala, a vehicle consisting of 3 stories, as per Rig Veda 3.14.1, and Trichakra Ratha, a 3-wheeled vehicle designated to operate in the air, Rig Veda 4.36.1, and Vayu Ratha, a gas or wind powered chariot, Rigveda 5.41.6, and Vidyut Ratha, a vehicle that operated on electromagnetic power, Rigveda 3.14.1. So these are references. If you would like to have more information, you can just go to any translations of Rigveda, and you can directly go through these sections where you can find much more detail about the existence of various flights or various uh, kind of vehicles that were operated on air, land, even before science. The term science also was invented. Science is just 200, 300 years old, but we have ancient sciences, we have ancient scriptures which are, thousands and thousands of years oldest. And we had all the technology. Even now, people, you know, they can't even dream or they can't even imagine. And we had wonderful technologies. Today, we are struggling to go to moon or next planet Mars, but we have traveled, beyond universe Milky Ways long back, and we have gained knowledge, and we have put described and given account in Vedas. Otherwise, how do you think it would have been possible? Where we have given exact distance between the Earth and other planets, even before science has evolved. So, our ignorance, our negligence, or in fact, our arrogance to some extent or to the most extent, we deny the greatest source of our knowledge that puts us more vulnerable to the disasters, and we are, in fact, trying to create the wheel again and again. That's all we are doing. In spite of that, if we concentrate on our scriptures, learning them, and use that wheel for further inventions, it will drive the inventions and innovations to a greatest height. Even the Agastya Samhita gives Agastya's descriptions of two types of aeroplanes. The first is, Chatra, that is umbrella or balloon to be filled with hydrogen. Even now we can see these gas balloons. And the process of extracting hydrogen from water is also described in elaborate detail, and use of electricity in achieving this was also clearly stated in Agastya Samhita. And this was stated to be a primitive type of plane, useful only for escaping from a fort when enemy had set fire to the jungle all around. And also there were detailed accounts mentioned for even longer distances or longer flights also. And hence the name Agniyana. The second type of aircraft mentioned is somewhat on the lines of parachute. Nowadays parachutes we have seen, and it was mentioned long back in Rig Veda and also Agastya Samhita. It could be opened and shut by opening cords. This aircraft was described as Vimana Dvigunam, that is of lower order, but lower order than the regular aeroplane. Bharadwaja's Vaimanika Shastra not only gives this information on these methods of aeroplane construction, but also provides a bibliography. And he had consulted 6 treatises by 6 different authors previous to him. After him, there were have been 4 commentaries on this work. So planes which will not break, Avedya, or catch fire, Adhyaya, and which cannot be cut, Achedya, has also been described. So we were flights of kind which were, unbreakable and which would not catch fire, that is fireproof, and which cannot be cut or broken. So earlier the flights were of such technology, such built that it cannot be destroyed that easily. And along with the treaties, there are diagrams of 3 types of aeroplanes. And we have a lot of designs also mentioned in the scriptures. And based on that, we have come up with the blueprints of various flights also. Sundara, Shukana, and Rukma. And of course, there are various others also. And it appears that the aerial warfare was also not known, or sorry, was not unknown. But the treatise gives the technique of Shatru Vimana and Kampana Kriya and Shatru Vimana Nashana Kriya, that is shaking and destroying enemy aircraft, as well as photographing any enemy planes, even before camera was invented in the modern thing. Even before the word camera was also invented, we had taken photographs also of various enemy flights and other things. How could that be possible? So we should not be fools. In fact, even fool is a very humble word to say, because our ignorance or our arrogance, that's why we tell, we are blindly denying our rich knowledge which was existed in the past and still exists, and which is still valid also. Instead, today we are giving citations to all these people, and our own fathers, forefathers, ancestors who have given rich knowledge and traditions. We are very much reluctant to give references and take their give citations to our ancestors, to our ancient Vedic knowledge. Why? Are we not traitors of our own knowledge? Are we not traitors of our own ancestors? We should think this is all because of Western influence and these, Western cultures, which, for promoting their own cultures, traditions, or knowledge, they are destroying the rich culture so that they can resell or re-advocate our own ancient knowledge systems as theirs, so that they can make profit of it. They can make everything out of it, and they can credit themselves as an inventors. So they have been largely by large successful, because they have made us think, they have made us to feel that our own cultures and traditions and our own ancient scriptures are not worth to learn or read. So that's how we became dumb and we became ignorant. We are becoming ignorant, and we are becoming vulnerable, susceptible to the false information, to the false knowledge, to the pseudoscience. And we are, who were highly independent, highly matured, highly knowledgeable, now are becoming the illiterates, the educated illiterates, or the ignorance, because we are not referring to our own knowledge, and the entire knowledge is being lying around and it is getting disappeared. So tomorrow it will be like an old wine packed in a new bottle. The same people in the West are studying, doing research in Vedas and Vedic scriptures. They are translated. And the highest document that is ever translated in many languages across cultures are only Vedic scriptures. No other document, no other scripture has been translated into any other language or as per their this thing. You can see, even we have, even in Islam countries, or even in these Christian countries also, before, because they also existed recently, 2000 years, 3000 years, 4000 years. Even before that, human beings existed. Even before that, this Sanatana Dharma was there, and they translated into their own languages, and they derived a certain thing. Everything was there in place, and whatever they liked, whatever they disliked, based on their things, they have evolved their own belief systems, religions, and whatnot. So we cannot, first thing is we have to accept history. is only to be accepted. There is nothing we cannot deny the history because it is there. And by mere denying or disagreeing with the history will not go. Nowadays, yes, people with vested interest are trying to distort history and rewrite history. But history cannot be rewritten or cannot be distorted. We have to accept, but we are in the denial mode. We don't want to accept that. We don't want to credit them. We are all into the plagiarism mode. We are taking credit of all our ancestors, and we don't want to even credit them for their knowledge. And we want to credit ourselves. That is a major problem that is happening with nowadays. So let's start, expressing our gratitude and acknowledging, referring them, providing citations to our ancient scriptures, sages who have really contributed for our well-being today. What we are with the little knowledge itself, we have put the entire planet on to the verge of distinction and destruction. And what could happen? Just imagine if all that knowledge, all this, invention, all this sacred knowledge or ancient knowledge comes to human, they will destroy entire planet in no time. Maybe that's the reason most of the Vedas have disappeared from the planet. I mean, they are not in the physical form. And even that's the reason, Vedas are only taught in the oral tradition. They were not written anywhere. But later on, they were documented as well. But only to the right deserved, only it was provided an opportunity to learn so that they would responsibly, accountably take it forward. And that was not based on any varna or any caste system, because there was no varna or caste mentioned in Vedas. Even that was also came later on as a social evil, as a, with people with vested interests. In fact, that was a different concept altogether, which was entirely based on the occupation. So whichever occupation people took, based on that, these varnas and castes, they came based on the occupation, and they were in that occupation for quite long time, generations and generations together. And some people exploited some communities, some occupations exploited other, and it all together created a different and people, and these vested people with their vested interest has taken a very good advantage to blame certain religions or communities for that matter because of their immaturity. Because we cannot claim one person or a group of person, we cannot blame the entire community. Can we blame? And this was a blunder they have done, and they try to blame entire community, entire religion as such. And today, even the educated fools are following the same thing without any intellect. That's why our intellect is highly questionable today. Do we have our own wisdom? Do we have our own conscience today? Because every religion, every belief system for such has similar practices. Then if one religion becomes questionable, all religions are equally questionable, are equally doubtful. Then why only one religion or one community is getting targeted? Because they have Western interest to destroy that religion or community or belief system so that they can promote or propagate their own belief system or religion. So we should not get as an educated. Why we are discussing these things? Nowadays, we are educated, but we are not educated literates. We got education, but what kind of education we got? It's not value-based education, it's valueless education that made us, educated illiterates. So that's why I keep telling you, we should have our own institution. We should question ourselves. There is nothing wrong. Socrates, Plato, everyone questioned. They were killed also for being questioning in open. But that shouldn't, stop us from thinking and questioning. Without questioning, we should not accept. And of course, whether we belong to a certain community or certain religion or certain belief system, that shouldn't stop us, because history is something which we have to accept. There is no other option. We have to accept as it is. We have to accept Sanatana Dharma is the oldest, and we have to accept Hinduism was never existed because it was Sanatana Dharma. But again, differentiate this Islam and Christianity and all other things. So to differentiate, there was a new name coined as Hinduism, and with that, they started discriminating or differentiating people. So that's how religions emerged, or how religions came sprouted. If we know the truth, then we will never have this kind of discrimination or hatred among ourselves. In fact, it is just a difference of opinion or difference of interest, difference of thought process, or difference of likes and dislikes. Nothing more than that. There is nothing to take personal. There is nothing to take official, or nothing to take anything. So it's all just based on our likes and dislikes. We want to go this way, we want to go that way. Anyway, whichever way you go, the ultimate destination is the same. And we started finding different route, and we all together, gave different names, forms to the destinations, and we all came from the Panchabhutas, and we will finally get merged, get dissolved into the Panchabhutas one. Even in Visena, we came from the dust and we go on to the dust. Similarly, either we should be buried or we should be burnt. So finally, we are going to that dust particle only. So everything in between, we should not take it so much personally, and we should not have, this is a very short life, and we need to try to understand, accept the facts as it is. We cannot change, we cannot deny. Only for it is a cognitive, distortion, cognitive dissonance that we all are going through. We are unable to accept the facts, and we are unable to digest that, there is something beyond our intellect, beyond our conscious, beyond our learning, or beyond our wisdom. And of course, we all know just a drop of ocean, and there is a lot more to be learned, lot to be known. And maybe we are not part of that oldest Sanatana Dharma, or being part of it or being not part of it. But still, whether we are part of it or not part of it, but we all came from that. Maybe in between something happened, that we are somewhere being part or not part of it. But that shouldn't prevent us, or anyone for that matter, to learn. Because not everyone likes rice, or not everyone likes wheat, or not everyone likes some other food. So it's just a matter of likes and dislikes. But we should not be committing a blunder, like going criticizing on beyond, which is, beyond our understanding, or beyond our consciousness, or beyond our maturity. So this is what the prime aspect that we need to learn. There are various references. We can keep talking on every aspect, not just aspect. You name it, I can give reference into the Vedic scriptures, where it was mentioned and how it was mentioned. So that's why I keep telling, irrespective of your religion, caste, creed, whatever it is, you just read Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, or for that matter, Vedas also, as a book or as a novel, whatever you want, like. You need not, treat it as a religious or a thing. Just read it, go through it, and you will gain a lot of insights. You may not follow everything in it, but just for the sake of understanding and just for the, for learning, you can learn always it in a very secular way. In this secular world also, there is nothing like secular. All are pseudo secular. So everyone want their own religion or belief system or their own system to be promoted, and they don't respect also. In fact, secularism itself says respect, worship your own, respect all. But that doesn't happen. Worshipping one's own is happening, but respecting all is not. That is not what not happening. So these all are very important aspects. Then how we can call that we are secular? One community is following and other community is not following. We cannot call them as secular. We are not truly secular. We are pseudo seculars. That is a problem with the world. That is a problem with the people who are following. And no country in this world is secular except India. Again, that is the biggest problem. So all these are various issues, practical issues. We preach one thing, we practice one thing. So we'll move on to other commemorations. Today is also Pope Francis' birthday. And George Mario Bergoglio, better known as Pope Francis, was born on December 17th, 1936, and is the Bishop of the Rome. And he is, as such, head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City State since 2013 election. And today is Pope's birthday, and we are going to celebrate or commemorate as any other event. So he might be 36, so might be around 80 years old, if I'm not wrong. 70 or 96, I think. And Sagittarius is his zodiac sign, is about 5'7", and his net worth is around $16 million. And Pope Francis, the Bishop of Rome and head of Catholic Church, was born in Flores, a neighborhood of Buenos Aires, to parents Mario Jose Borgoglio, an Italian immigrant accountant, and Regina Maria Sivori, a housewife. After finishing junior school, Bergoglio attended the technical secondary school, Escuela Tecnica Industrial, North 27, and Hipólito Yrigoyen. These names are very different, where he graduated with a chemical technicals diploma, chemical technician's diploma, and he later worked in the food section of Decatur Batchman Laboratory, as well as worked as bar bouncer and as a janitor sweeping floors. So this was his history. And after studying further at the Archidiocesan Seminary and Mag Conception Ceremony in Villa Seminary in Villa Devoto, Buenos Aires, and Bergoglio entered the Society of Jesus as novice in 1958. Sorry for the pronunciation. maybe that may be right or wrong. There is nothing right or wrong as such. And in 1969, he was ordained as a Catholic priest, and from 1973 to 1979, and he was Jesuit provincial superior in Argentina. In 1998, he became the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, and later in 2001 was created a Cardinal Pope John Paul II. In 2013, after the resignation of Pope Benedict XIV, Bergoglio was elected as Pope Francis by a papal conclave. So during his papacy, Bergoglio has been known for his less formal approach to the role of Bishop of Rome, as well as his modesty, international fame, regard for the poor, and his devotion to the interreligious dialogue. He has also been honored and awarded for various causes, such as Cantor in the Philippines, named after himself, and the Pope Francis Censure for the Poor, and being granted Person of the Year by the people of ethical treatment of animals. So this was brief history, and he brought so many reforms. How far it was good or bad, that only their, their community, or they have to tell. Because we are not much aware of it. So, but Bergoglio has changed the church laws to include women. So that was the greatest achievement for women as Bible readers at Mass, serving at the altar, as well as distributing communion. So this has allowed bishops to institute women into the ministries of acolyte and lecture. And he also advocated for climate change. He asked people of the world to take swift and unified global action against environmental degradation and global warming. And he also supported this LGBT community. And he has expressed that parents of gay children should support their children instead of condemning them. And Francis was chosen as his papal name in the honor of Saint Francis of Assisi. So thus his name, Pope Francis. And he suffered a deadly disease and from life-threatening pneumonia and 3 cysts, which was part of and had a part of lung excised. And he is a lifelong fan of San Lorenzo di Almero Football Club, and he was also portrayed in a film, the film Two Popes, and he was portrayed by actor Jonathan Pires. And he also written several books and encyclicals and other scripts. And today is his 86th birthday. We wish him happy birthday. And coming to his personal life, he doesn't have any children. And he has 2 verified accounts on Instagram and Twitter. So he's on social media. And he does not earn a salary as a monarch. As he is Pope, he is everything at his disposal. So he doesn't get any salary as such, but everything is his only. And that's why his net worth is $18 million. So everything is at his disposal. whatever he wants, he can do. Whatever he wants to enjoy, he can enjoy. So everything is at his disposal. So there are various other things also, but due to time constraints, we limit it here. And with this, we shall end these commemorations. And today is also Bhutan National Day. In 1907, the coronation commemorates the coronation of the first king of Bhutan, Ugyen Wangchuck, as the first Drak Gyalpo. This is the reason his statue is carried during positions on every holiday. During 17th century, Bhutan experienced its first unification by a Buddhist monk. So Bhutan at that time was ruled by Tibetan dual system of government, where Zhabdrung's reincarnations of the mind, body, and speech was practiced. And during late 19th century, the Tibetan and British Empire had different ideas about how Bhutan should be governed. So this led to an outbreak of war between Tibet and British Empire. So religious leaders in Bhutan began struggling with one another for power. This led to Ugyen Wangchuck, the Ponlop of Tongsa in central Bhutan, to stand out. He united the country and built a better relationship with British India. When Ugyen Wangchuck became the dominant leader in Bhutan, religious leaders and government officials held a meeting and decided to abolish the 300-year-old system of the previous government style of governance and established a new one. They eventually settled for monarchy and chose Ugyen Wangchuck as their king. So on December 17, 1907, the coronation of the first king, Druk Gyalpo Ugyen Wangchuck, was witnessed, establishing Wangchuck dynasty, which is still ruling today. So Druk Gyalpo is the official title given to the Bhutan head of the state. It means Dragon King in Dzongkha. This is because Bhutan is also known as the land of thunder dragon. And about Druk, the mythical dragon, that is also national symbol of Bhutan. Unlike the Seju holidays, which are being celebrated locally in Bhutan, the national day is celebrated nationally, shutting down all activities in the country, including government agencies, making it most significant holiday in Bhutan. So to celebrate or commemorate this ceremony, all government offices are shut down and all attention is channeled to creating a remarkable memory of the celebration in the hearts of guests that have traveled near and far. This is perfect day to shut down office and observe, enjoy the festival and commemoration. And preparations are made from Department of Tourism to the Palace of the Track to the preparation of Changling Mitang ground for the event. So everything is just prepared beautifully for the celebration of the glamorous day. And the Bhutanese move to the celebration ground where dignitaries from all walks of life will be present to celebrate the event with them. That could be a good place to be. And during this celebration, delegates from different nations travel far and near to celebrate with the people of Bhutan, making it a popular event. And the Changling Mitang grounds or stadium, which was constructed in 1974 for the coronation of the fourth Drak, has since been used continuously to celebrate the National Day. And friends and family travel down for the celebration, strengthening the family bond again, get together with family on this day. And it also reminds the Bhutanese of their freedom for Bhutan and how the first Drak Gyalpo Tugyen Wangchuk helped in the mediation of the Bhutan nation. And today is also National Maple Syrup Day. People enjoy it drizzled over everything from pancakes to salads to barback. The sugary substance has more potential. And today is also Festival of Winter Walks in UK. And it aims to encourage more people to get walking, especially in green nature dense areas, to take away in the winter beauty of Britain. And the walks are generally free and open to anyone to join. Each walk is different, allowing participants an option of kind of views they want to take in when they participate. And today is also National Device Appreciation Day in US. And is an opportunity to appreciate the devices that help us to lead our lives and take steps to protect these that are most important to us. The best, most effective way to protect all the items that contribute to joy in our life is to properly insure them, ensuring that they can continue to positively impact our life for years to come, no matter what unexpected problems may arise. So with this, we shall conclude today's commemoration. And thank you everyone for joining us, and quickly fill up the feedback form. It is mandatory for the certificate. So feedback form is being raised in the form of polls. We request everyone to attend to the feedback form. A window has been popped up or raised on your Zoom. So quickly attend to it. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you all tomorrow. Tomorrow we have international conference starting at 11 o'clock morning. In fact, we had a different workshop which was rescheduled at from 10 o'clock. It was rescheduled to next Sunday from 10 to 1. So we will be having a conference at the usual time at 11 o'clock. And we'll be having sessions based on the weekly commemorations. So we invite you everyone to join us tomorrow. Hope you all have received the joining link. Otherwise, I will also share now in the chat box where you can register and join tomorrow. If you have any queries or any observations, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, we can take off for the day and see you all tomorrow. Before leaving, quickly fill up the feedback form. See you all tomorrow. Take care. Good night.